Hi, everyone. Thank you, Leap, so much for having me today. I know we are in such interesting times. Otherwise, I would absolutely be in person with you. Last year, my speech was rated one of the top speeches at Leap. It was kind of unexpected. We had like half the room filled, and I think all the teens started texting each other. And by the time we were done, there was over 150 kids in the room. It was absolutely amazing. And so today, what I want to talk about is something similar to last year, but a little different. So if you don't know me, my name is Neha Gupta. I'm the founder of collegeshortcuts.com. What we do is we help students in the application process, admissions process. We also help students to figure out what their passion is, and we pair them with mentors close to their age so they can really enjoy life while finding their passion and feel balance and grace during their high school years, and then get into the college of their dreams. Now, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the fact that we are coming into a time in history that's never really existed. But what I feel about it, and in my own life experience, and I don't know why I got a little bit of a tickle on my nose here, but what I've realized is, one of the reasons why I feel like I can relate so much with you guys is that I'm a millennial, and during my high school experience, I actually went through a lot of traumatizing experiences, from friendships to things that were happening in my house to so much happened to me between the ages of 15 and 19. And then just to add on top of it, 9/11 happened at the same time, where our entire worldview on, are we safe anymore, is this a world that we can be trusted or feel comfortable in, completely changed my life. I grew up in high school where because of what had happened, my parents were scared to let me be out a lot because people thought we were possibly terrorists. And that was really tough for me. I didn't get to do a lot of the extracurriculars that I had done before my sophomore year. Didn't get to do all the things that I wanted to do. And so when I think back to that time and like how hard it was, I think about you guys, because now you're in a time where, can you go do those extracurriculars? Probably not. Can you spend a bunch of time with your friends? Probably not. Is the world possibly ending? We don't know. Is there a feeling of like, is it even safe anymore to exist? And, our breath, could infect another person. And so while the trauma may not be the same that I went through during that time, I would say the effects of the reaction to something difficult can be the same. And so I want to just take a moment with you guys and let you know that while I may not be a teenager during this time, I was a teenager during a time where I had my own stresses in my own home, with parents that were fighting, with friendships that were falling apart, with bullying, with all the other things that you feel as a high schooler. And then on top of it, you just add another layer, and it was 9/11 at the time. So I think about each and every one of you, and I question and wonder, what are you doing for you? And the reason why I asked that question is because a lot of teenagers don't exactly have the tools or the coaching or the mentorship by their side to help them through these difficult times. Oops, looks like I lost an earring. I guess I'll just have to let go of these today. All my jewelry is now off because I can't, except the ring, of course, but can't get anything to stick today. So where was I? I was talking specifically around the fact that, what are you doing for you? And so what I would like you guys to do is pull out a journal. Um, and I want you to take a minute. Let me give you a minute to do that if you don't have one. I'm going to pull out my pen too. And I want us to take a second here and think through, what are some of the things we've been through in the last few months or the last few years, that may have not always been that easy. So I want us to take a few minutes and write it down about, let's write about maybe 3 to 4 things that were challenging. And it can be anything ranging from something family related, or it could be something internal that you were struggling with, about like things that were shifting in you as a person. It can talk about friendships falling apart or friendship difficulty. It can talk about mental health issues. It could talk about grief, loss. It could talk about all sorts of things. So let's just take a few minutes and write down a few things that, you know, and I want to just define what trauma is for you guys, or difficulty in life. A trauma is, let's say, well, look at that. My teacup has come in handy and it matches my shirt today. Let's say this cup, ooh, there's a little friend in there. Likes the honey. I'm gonna have to kill that, or at least let it go, or whatever. So let's say this is your emotional cup every day. Okay, right there, boom. And let's say something difficult happens, but it's not so difficult. So for example, let's say you stub your toe. Okay, so about maybe here on the emotional, and then it goes down, right? You're like, oh, I stubbed my toe, it really hurts, and then an hour later you're fine. Okay, let's say something really difficult happens and it goes over this threshold, even by this much. This is called traumatic, just so you guys know. Anything past your emotional threshold is a trauma, and it's individual based on you. So if you are a highly sensitive person, or feel a lot of things, or have what we call big feelings that people try to smush into small boxes, I just want you to know everyone's teacup is a different size. You know, some people's emotional could be this big, right? So huge. And they can take all the way up to here, but this is a lot more than this amount of liquid, right? So there's no judgment around who is feeling what and what counts as a trauma to who, okay? So let's write down some of the things that you've been through in the last few years that have gone past this threshold, okay? And just remember, I'm not gonna make you share it. This is just for you. If you wanna take the page and tear it up later, you're fine with it. If you wanna look at it and journal about it later, you're more than welcome as well. But I want us to take a minute and write them down, okay? So let's take a few seconds and do that. 3 or 4 would be good. Okay, so I've written 3 things down of things that happened in the last 12 to 13 months of my life that were pretty hard. And what I also want to write down are 3 incredible things that happened to me during that time too, okay? That could have been as a result of some of these harder things, possibly. And it doesn't have to be, but possibly, okay? Also noticing how horrible my handwriting is. Okay, so what I've done is I've written these out. Now, what I'm doing with you guys, just so you guys know, and you're wondering like, why are we talking about this from a college consultant at College Shortcuts? Like, what is this about? If you haven't checked out College Shortcuts, please go to the site and see what we do with kids. But what I want you guys to know is what I'm doing with you is actually a lot of what we do with our students to figure out what is going to be their core story for their applications. One of the big buzzwords in admissions right now is authenticity. And authenticity and vulnerability only comes from when you actually go deep, what goes on outside of this cup, and share it with people. You know, while I will tell you that the admissions process has completely changed in the last 2 years. Last year we had the admissions scandal, and this year we've got COVID-19. And I think one of the big things to think about is, you know, a lot of students aren't possibly able to take the SAT or ACT, GPAs aren't mattering as much. So today's admissions process, and if you are going to be going through this process, if you are an 11th grader about to be a senior, or if you are in middle school, 9th, 10th grade, or a little bit beyond, or even in college, it's really important to not only know how to write, but it's going to be how well you present. What is it that makes you stand out? And what is really your story? Because this is the year in admissions that, you know, it's not about your stats, it's about your story. And I think it's a beautiful time. I've been predicting for a long time that at some point admissions would look at children for who they are versus a 3-hour test on a Saturday. Can I get an amen to that, people? Let's do that. So the truth is that it really is about who you are and your character and your values. And the only way to understand that about you is to do exercises like this. So this is, some of the excavation and things we do to figure out, what is your story. And on the mentorship side, we talk through like what your interests are, what your personality is, and find really fun activities for you to do, even virtually, to figure out what your passion is and things like that. So, and that can be really powerful work, just to let you guys know. So I'm going to kind of go through, just so you guys can see. I'm going to go through my points here. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to be very real with you, because this is where finding your authentic voice can really come from. Now, a lot of times when people see me, they say, wow. And if you've read about me or learned about me, you'll say, wow, Neha Gupta, she's a TEDx speaker. She's been on NBC, ABC, CBS News. She runs a massive organization that helps students globally. Was at the top of her class in high school, spoke at her high school class, triple majored at Rice, has built a company for over, decades of time. She's an overachiever, and she's, people have a lot of perception about the external version of who I am. But what not everyone knows is some of the things that I've been through or how hard they are. And so when you're applying to admissions and you're saying things like, take a look at my resume and take a look at my GPA and all the classes I took, like that's all a given. Like that's required when you get in. And that's typical stuff like piano, chess, karate, or whatever else it is that you take. But it's the stories and the things in between that builds out your authentic and vulnerable voice that really makes you who you are in this moment right now. And one thing I wish I'd known when I was a teenager is that some of the things that I went through that were so difficult and so hard left me feeling, sometimes at a point isolated or lonely or wondering why I'm still here. I wish I'd realized that all of those experiences led me to this moment and why I love what I do so much for teenagers, because of the pain, despair, and frustration that I felt during that time, and how in my life, I want no teenager to go through what I did or to feel the feelings that I had had at that time, but to enjoy their high school years and to have a wonderful, hopeful view on their college and their future passions and life that they have in life. And so I want you to know that sometimes your mess is your message. So I'm going to say it one more time. Sometimes your mess is your message. And at the time I did not realize it. So I just want you to take space and understanding that, when there's a rainy day, after the rain comes the rainbow. So I'm going to go over, the 3 hard things I went through that you may not have known about me. In the same month that I was speaking with Richard Branson on Necker Island, invited as one of the innovators in education, was the same month that my cousin passed away from a long journey of mental illness and drug abuse. She died inside the house, and it was extremely traumatic for all of us to lose someone that we've known for, she's been alive for 45 years. And this was all while I was doing so much other stuff in my life. And it created this kind of a pause or difficulty in my life of like, what am I doing and what truly matters? And I really struggled with that. Even though we knew she was struggling, it didn't make it any easier. So, if any of you have experienced loss or difficulty or, just losing someone, or the feeling of like someone going through something mentally that's kind of broken them or, made it hard, and just talking about it, my heart gets really heavy as I talk about it. This is a part of my journey. It's not an easy part. I was being interviewed by multiple news stories at the same time and having to put on a Neha happy face. But, at the same time, I was going through this. It was very hard. And so I want to talk about like something called the hero's journey that we work on in college essays with students. And we have editors and people that are involved with the process to get the best story out of you. And I want you to think about these things. So, in my experience, I lost somebody and it was very hard. But one of the things I'd learned, so I'm bringing you on the journey up, is that I learned how important mental health can be and really turned my mentorship program to another level of helping students and rejigging my program so that it's done well, so students really feel supported on a more regular basis. So that was really a big life lesson for me of like, hey, like mentorship is really important, and having a coach by your side is honestly really nice to have when life can throw some curveballs at you. So I want you to take a look at your first thing you wrote down, and then take a look at what is one thing that you may have learned from it or that you've grown from it. And I want to tell you, if you can't find that, that's okay. It's okay. What that means is that something occurred, it overspilled, and it could be too recent, and therefore you're in this phase, which is processing through it. You're processing through the difficulty. So to take a look at it and say there's a blessing can possibly feel absolutely impossible. So I just want to make that clear. The second one, has anyone ever been in a breakup before? I'm just curious. I know you guys are a bit young, but sometimes you can have a crush. My first crush was Blake when I was in 3rd grade. And I used to scribble his name on my notebooks all the time. I know that's like very old school, but we didn't have the internet. I recently went through a breakup that was really, really painful. This happened, and I just felt like, you know, what's wrong with me? And I know that's really hard to say because I'm a highly achieved person and, you know, I've done a lot of great things, but I felt like this pain of like feeling like I wasn't good enough, or maybe I wasn't lovable, or, you know, when is this ever going to happen for me? Or maybe I'll just die alone. Sounds very dramatic, but these are the thoughts that sometimes we can go through as we're going through something traumatic or hard. But what I learned through the experience is what I need to feel loved, and what I wasn't feeling when I was in that experience. And what I'm not willing to negotiate on moving forward in relationship with people. And so that was the hero's journey up. So I just want you guys to know, I'm kind of like throwing an exercise with you together because it helps to show you some of the work that we do with kids for their essays, because a lot of people, they'll write their essays on like, look at all these amazing things I did, and I'm so great. Like there's a time and place for all of that, but they want the hero's journey. They want to know really about you. They want to know what has been hard for you. Like not everyone's life is totally semi-charmed. I mean, I don't even think that's really possible to live a semi-charmed life without going through something difficult. And it's really about figuring out how you're going to word that and express that for it to be a story that's compelling, but not a sob story and a victim story and being sad, and not a brushing over it and bypassing it story. Hopefully that makes sense to you to understand what I mean by that, but it's just about really going in deep, really going in deep. The third thing was, I was starting to experience burnout. I don't know if anyone knows what that means, but burnout is when your body just says, that's enough, I'm out. Or it means your brain is like, I'm not doing this anymore. Or this is too hard. Or I don't want to do this and you can't force me to. So in high school, I used to be able to blow through this burnout like constantly, and I would get like all A's, 5 AP on my 5s on my APs, all that jazz, and I pushed myself way past the limit. And it's a major reason why I love to work with teenagers, because I think we're the most, I love how I said we, like as if I'm a teen, but as if we're like the most misunderstood group of humans, because it's the most forming years of your life and your hormones are all over the place. Ugh, it was such a mess for me. So the thing about it is I didn't realize how much I was burning myself out until years later, when the physical manifestations occurred in my body. So I'd pushed myself past the limit to achieve, and then years later I dealt with, and in some cases still dealing with, my inability to create more balance in my life. And so this year, with the virus and everything that's happened, I said, How can I create more balance in my life? And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. A lot of people are either freaking out or they're questioning like the way they lived their life before and this new way of life and the new normal for themselves. And so in a way, the burnout has helped me to re-examine like what brings me joy. What brings you joy? It can be very simple. For me, it's as simple as getting some flowers. They're so pretty, aren't they? I love that color. That and turquoise are my favorite colors. So pretty. And decorating. See, all these fun things. I'm going to be creating some really fun classes on extracurricular classes for kids soon, teens specifically, obviously. So I'm really excited about that project. So I'm walking you through some of the things that bring me joy. A cup of tea. Hello, total cup of tea joy there. So all I'm saying is when it comes to you and your life experiences and your stories, I want you to start journaling a little bit about some of the things you've been through or things you're going through right now. And remember, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, but it's okay to process through your feelings and emotions. And the reason why I say that is because when it comes to the college admissions experience, they want to know about you. They want to know your story. They want to know what it is that makes you you and what are your life experiences. What are the things you've done in this lifetime? What projects have you been involved with? Why do you love them so much? What are the things that you've done? So remember, between every resume line is a story. And that's what they want to see. Let me just take a sip of this real quick. Or 5. Um, so I hope that was really helpful just to give you a sense of what matters. You know, last year I did my speech and it was amazing. And so I did this exercise now with myself. But last year I was able to do it with students where, you know, I called on a student and I asked them why were they interested in a certain passion. And when push came to shove and we were able to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the why, we always ended up with a very deep story. Last year I had a student in my speech where when I asked her why she wanted to be a nurse, she said, well, you know, I like science. I'm like, cool. A lot of people like science. Like, what else? So we went deeper and deeper and deeper. And then, boom, the story came. And it was the fact that she has, at a teenage level, been like caregiving for her grandmother. It has taken a toll on their financial life in their home. That she really wants to make sure people, you know, take care of their health early on so that it's not this hard later, and how it's really been a lot for her. I'll never forget her. If you're watching, I love you, by the way. You may remember me from last year, but I love you so much. And I will tell you that in that moment of her sharing that story and being vulnerable and open, the entire room felt the energy of that. And I asked the room, do you think this woman is going to be an incredible nurse? And everyone was like, absolutely. Like, no questions asked, that this is a woman who's going to step into her power for what she's passionate about because of the things she's been through. And so I urge you to, if there's anything you remember from my experience of getting to share your valuable time today, is that your mess is your message. And if there's ever a mentor that understands what you're going through, it's a mentor that has gone through 9/11 in high school and gone through that trauma, and really questioning the safety of ourselves and others in the world. And while I feel for all of you, I want you to know, as a prophet coming to you 20 years later, from when 9/11 happened during my high school years, everything will be okay. Period. And I know that's hard to hear because you're in the muck of it. I mean, I was in the muck of it. I remember thinking, like, the world will never like people that look like me. That's not true, by the way. people love us. They love meditation, yoga, and Indian food like nobody's business. So that was not a true statement. I made that belief or meaning around that trauma. Okay. And it's not true. So as we go through these journaling experiences, and I want you to do this later for yourself, look at some of the things you've been through and rewrite your story. It's a process called reframing. It's where you take what you did and you look at it and you say, wow, like I went through this, but here's the beauty of some of the things of what happened. I'll walk you through another example to make it easier if you're not getting it. Coronavirus hit and I walked out of where I lived with 2 suitcases straight to my mother's house. Flew on a plane, came back in March, and have not been back at my home. Came here with only 2 suitcases, and that was it. I barely had that many clothes from what I normally have. I moved back in with my mother, which is pretty much like being a teenager. We like fell back into those odd dynamics. Whew, that was rough. So rough. And I was getting to the point where I felt like I was confined in a solitude confinement in a jail cell. Like that was really tough. So that was really hard. And I felt like it was just never going to end. And at the time it felt like it was never going to end. So those were all the hard points, right? So reframing. One of the amazing parts about coronavirus for me is that I am so grateful that I get to be the one that gets to come home and spend time with my mom because she's by herself. I also got to start a garden with her, which we've always had black thumbs, but apparently we have green thumbs right now. And we've officially built a garden that makes eggplant, okra, peppers, all the herbs, tomatoes, like so many tomatoes. And we can't believe it. It all started with just a few plants and some seeds. And I will never forget the memories I've had with her where we got to put our hands in the soil and really build this beautiful garden together. I also was able to create self-care Saturdays during the early parts of the virus where I would get into an infrared sauna blanket. I would give myself a bath. I would put a hair oil massage. I did all these fun things on my Saturday that I never made time to do before. So I really enjoyed this experience of time slowing down. And I feel like what I'm going to do is take these beautiful moments and experiences and continually have a more grateful approach to my life versus rushing through it. So I walked you through a journey, experience, and story, and I hope you can understand what that was. But I hope you guys see the power of, and it seems like a very simple thing to do, but the power of reframing and retraining and re-going through some of the things you've been through and figuring out how to work through it. I also want to offer you guys, just so you guys know, if any of you guys are interested in working with me or my team, we would love to offer all leapers today. If you want to have it for free, go to collegeshortcuts.com/apply and you can schedule a free call with us. Your parents have to be on the line and they have to know what you're doing. So you want to make sure that you let them know you heard me speak and you wanted to get a mentor or coach if you're from 7th grade up, or if you're about to apply to college. So make sure you share the site with them first and let them know, and then they schedule the call and you get to be on it too, so that we can see if we can find a way to help support you during this time, to build that hero's journey, to process through what it is that you really want to do with your life, and to help you find that passion and ultimately get into the school of your dreams so that you can go there and flourish and be happy and move forward in your life and, you know, be able to really find your authentic, vulnerable voice. So I hope you enjoyed this. I love each and every one of you leapers. Last year was my favorite speaking experience since my TEDx. I know we're here virtually, but I feel each and every one of you, and I love you deeply. And no matter what you're going through, I am living proof that no matter what difficulty you're seeing, no matter how hard it is in your home, I am here energetically to support you and tell you that you will always be okay. So I love each and every one of you. If you want to connect more further with us at collegeshortcuts.com, please go. The apply button's in the top right corner. our team would love to speak with you. Last year, we worked with a leaper. I got an email saying that she got into like 3 out of the 5 schools that she was like gunning for. So I'm very excited to hear that we were able to do that. So have an incredible time with your LEAP experience. Don't forget to take good notes. And remember, journal, journal, journal. I love you guys. Bye.